Hey, welcome back, World Entertainment, and this is the review for Picard Season 3, Episode 5, titled Imposters. As usual, I'll give you the non-spoiler, and then we'll go into spoilers. So, this episode, we see the Titan back in Federation space. She's sitting there getting repairs. Jack is getting crazy visions. As we know, the end of last episode, he saw these weird red vines growing on the wall, and then he's getting flashes of what looks like the imagery looks like a nuclear bomb going off, and a red door and a voice saying "find me." With Picard and Riker, they're preparing to face the consequences of taking the Titan. Shaw informs them that he's already informed Starfleet and they're on their way. And Worf and Raffi, yes, they are in this episode, are trying to find out how somebody got into the Daystrom facility, seen as they've got AI intelligence that is the security and is incredibly strong, apparently, that you basically can't get past it. So they're on a mission to find out who managed to get in there and how. And of course, they're trying to figure out how a changeling got on board the ship, as the ships should have sensors in place to spot that. Seven explains that all ships were fitted with, it's like a metal detector, but it's for biosignatures that all the crew pass through when they first come on board. And this was implemented and put in place during the Dominion War. So that's basically what the episode is about. You can't really say too much without spoiling a lot. We do get a original TNG familiar face. That's as much as I'll say in the non-spoiler for that. Of course, if you've seen some people's thumbnails and stuff, they've already spoiled it. This episode is a very strong episode compared to the last 4. So I would give this episode, it's damn close to a 10 out of 10. I'd give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's really starting to open up what the hell is going on. So with that, we'll get into the spoilers, because it's really the only way to talk about this episode. So with that, let's get into the spoilers. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, full spoilers ahead. So the episode opens up with, on the bridge of the Titan, the crew all seem tired. It's just kind of the helm and science officers and stuff. There's no commanding officers there. And all of a sudden they all start getting shot by someone. And that someone is Jack. And Jack is in a Starfleet uniform. And as he's looking at there's 2 bald women. The alien in the yellow uniform, she's asking why he's doing it. And he starts seeing those red vein things growing on her. And he shoots her. Until he wakes up. And he's hearing a voice saying, "Come home and find me." To which he then starts having yet another vision that he's standing in his quarters holding a phaser. And he's hearing that, and his eyes change red, and he gets the vision of that kind of explosion. So then we jump to Picard and Riker are in the observation lounge with Shaw and Seven, discussing being ready to face the music with Starfleet, and Shaw is quite happy as soon as Riker transfers command back to Shaw, is quite happy and delighted with himself to inform them they don't have to worry. He's already contacted Starfleet and Starfleet are on their way. And then asks Seven, does she want to join them instated or not instated? She says instated, and he does this funny, like being knighted. He's like, I hereby reinstate you, and then tells them to stay in there and get their, as he says, a bullshit story together. We then go to Worf and Raffi are training on that piece of crap tin opener of a ship. Worf is pretty much kicking Raffi's ass into training. Tells her, you know, the more aggressive your enemy is, the easier it is to see their weaknesses. And he starts meditating in the middle of the fight. And they get a signal from Starfleet, which is Worf's handler, and they want access to what's in the Daystrom center that was actually taken, because they realized the portal weapon was a distraction. So what is the actual weapon? And their request is denied, which Raffi's not happy about, and Worf realizes the planet down below, they can go and find this guy called Tillis or Tinnis, something like Tinnis or Tillis. And they go down there and everyone runs off when they're here, and Raffi's like, why are they all running? And Worf is like, because we killed Sneed, we're the Alphas, so everyone fears us. And he just sits down and starts meditating again. Then we go back to the Titan, and the USS Intrepid shows up. And they are informed that the security chief or whatever they are is coming over on a shuttlecraft. And of course they're questioning why in the hell they're coming over on a shuttlecraft. And we get a great scene with Riker, Shaw and Picard in a turbo lift on their way down to meet the commander that's coming over. And Shaw just starts humming to himself. He's just humming a song to himself, and they're like, do you mind? And it's like, oh, sorry. He goes, I swear to God, I'm not happy because you're about to get your asses handed to you. And they're like, well, why do you think that's going to happen? He goes, come on. It's like, you're the guys that threw the Enterprise D saucer onto a planet. Then he says, you broke the Prime Directive to get your freak on with a native on Baku, and he mentions all good things when they opened up the time distortion thing. And then the doors open and they meet who's there to get them. And who is it? It's none other than Ro-Laren. For any TNG people who remember Ro-Laren, she of course was the Bajoran that really kind of butted head with everyone and ended up leaving to join the Maquis. But Picard has asked Seven to do him one more favour, and it was to hide Jack. And the way they were going to hide Jack was to put him in a uniform, basically hiding him in plain sight. Then we're in sick bay and Beverly's doing an autopsy on the changeling, which still looks like Sydney LaForge. I finally remember her first name. And actual Sydney LaForge is there getting sick watching this happening. They do explain that normally when a changeling dies or is killed, they revert back to the liquid form, but for some reason this one didn't. And Beverly starts doing an autopsy, and she puts a slight, like a cut in its arm, and realizes there's basically no blood, there's nothing, but there is something there, a bit of residue. of some sort, which they can't figure out why that's the case. Uh, Rowlaren and Picard and Riker are now in the observation lounge. She wants to speak with with Picard alone, so Riker's escorted out by the two security people who came over with her. And Picard and her have a bit of a back and forth. He's asking her, like, how the hell did, a traitor to Starfleet get back into Starfleet, and now is asking me about being a traitor. And that's one of the things as well. When she came over, they thought it was just going to be like, why did you take the Titan type argument, and they're being charged with being traitors. Jack, and you're informed that the crew of the Titan are being beamed over to the Intrepid. They're removing a bunch of the crew. Jack then walks into the transport room while there's people transporting, and he gets yet another vision. He just sees all the red vines again. Then the transporter officer asks him, is he going over? He shoots him. It's yet another vision within the vision. He walks away. Then we're down back with Worf and Raffi, and they meet the new person who's going to try and take over. And it's a Vulcan who's become a gangster. And he basically wants them to fight each other. To make sure one of them is dead and whatnot. But his plan doesn't quite go as he expected, and Raffi stabs Worf. Rowlaren brings Picard to the holodeck, which the unfortunate thing with the holodeck is they must only have the budget for the one set, because it's constantly the pub 10 forward. He turns off, disengages the safety protocol, and he pulls a face on Ro. And she, by the way, she cut her hand to show him that she's not a changeling. And then Beverly contacted Picard and said, I have your, because he says, I'm here with Ro, and she says, I have your medical test. It's urgent, you have a look at it. And he says, if you better excuse me, this is private and important, because it's his medical stuff. But it wasn't really. And it says that the changelings, the way they're passing the scans, is they have human blood. So much so that they in fact have human organs, and the only way it breaks down back to its normal form is you have to cut deep into it. So he's now thinking she's a changeling, but they have this big kind of talk in the holodeck, a real kind of heart to heart, and with how he feels about when he last saw Ro and how she feels, they realise they're actually talking to the real each other. So she informs Picard that all of Starfleet has been infiltrated by changelings up to the highest levels. That even though she's part of the highest security, she can't even get into finding out what the security is for Federation Day, which she thinks is strange, and that every ship seems to have a changeling on it. That seems to be the indication. Then Worf, who was stabbed and you believe is dead, isn't dead. He comes back, and they captured the Vulcan dude, and they're demanding questions, and he starts explaining that he's the one who got into the Daystrom Institute, and the reason he did it is the AI is sophisticated and stuff, but there's a flaw in it, and he exploited the flaw, and he gives them the ability to exploit that flaw. That flaw, I think, is going. We don't see it in this, but judging by the little thing you see him use, I'm guessing that flaw is in fact going to be where Moriarty comes in. So Roland is walking with Picard and the two security people who came over with her, who are still looking for Jack on the ship, show up, and she's like, give us a minute. She has a quick talk with Picard, explains, you gotta run, you gotta take the Titan, you gotta run. And he's like, I can't put this crew in more danger. And she explains, the crew is gone, you've a skeleton crew. I made sure to beam the rest of them over to the Intrepid. So she gives them something, and she tells the two security officers, we're leaving. And they're like, he's meant to be coming with us. She goes, we're leaving, that's an order. So they get onto the shuttle, they're flying off, and all of a sudden one of them turns around on the shuttle, puts what appears to be a bomb on the floor, activates it, the two of them beam off. She's trapped on the shuttle. She contacts the Titan and says, like, look, my two security officers have just beamed out. There's a bomb, I can't deactivate it. Riker says, beam her out. They can't get a lock on her, but they tell her, if you turn around and come back, we'll probably get a lock on you. She doesn't, and she flies the shuttle into the warp nacelle of the Intrepid to buy them time to get the hell out of there. Which they do. Well, they have to convince Shaw that they're going to have to do it. The other two changelings had beamed back onto the Titan, and another two beamed over because they find Jack. So now there's four of them. And Jack all of a sudden gets a vision of the red door. And he like turns into John Wick. He whips the phaser out of one of their hands and just downs all four of them. It's weird. And he doesn't even know how the hell it happened. So they convince Shaw to use his own eyes and realize what's happening, and the Intrepid is sitting there ready to fire on the Titan, and it wants them to surrender. And Shaw's like, why the hell would they do this? Like, why would they want us to surrender? And Riker says, because they've just framed us for what's just happened. So Shaw gives the orders to, right, get the hell out of here, go to warp. To go to warp, Riker and Picard then are in the observation lounge, and they're kind of having a discussion about Ro, and Picard goes, she gave me this before she left, and it was her earring, because Picard noticed she didn't have the Bajoran earring in, and it was something that she always had on. So he's like, I don't know why she would give this to me. And Riker goes, I do, and put it onto the table, and it was all her fault. She's been investigating the changing stuff forever by the looks of it, and there's all this information. All of a sudden, an incoming transmission, and they're like, we better answer this. And they answer, and who do we find out was Roland speaking to? She was Worf's handler. And he's like, Admiral, Captain, this is well, they're like, Mr. Worf. And then of course he's like, where's Ro? Then we jump back to sickbay, and Shaw is there going like, four of them were on my ship. And of course the four bodies are in sickbay, and he tells Jack, nice shooting. Beverly asks for time alone with Jack. Shaw and the head nurse leave, and Beverly says, I know when you haven't been sleeping. And it explains to Jack, you used to have nightmares as a kid so bad that you were terrified to go to sleep. And he starts saying, I think something's seriously wrong with me, especially when she said 4-on-1 weren't great odds. How did you do it? And that's when he's like, he starts kind of breaking down. He's like, I think something's seriously wrong with me. And that's where the episode ends. So we had Rolaren back. Unfortunately, Rolaren came back and died in the end, but it was nice to see her back. We finally got Worf being face to face, well, via the screen, but face to face with Picard and Riker. It looks like, I'm going to assume episode 6 is when we're going to start getting the band back together, as it were. Yeah, it's starting to get very reminiscent with the feel of the conspiracy stuff in it, of the episode. I think it was either the penultimate or the last episode in the very first season, when Starfleet got compromised by the weird little cockroach looking alien things. For anyone that remembers, when Riker and Picard blew the commander's dude head off and the big queen alien was inside his stomach, and it's sent out to be. It's very reminiscent of that, the way Starfleet's being corrupted and they don't know who is or isn't a changeling. And Beverly explains, like, it seems to be that the changeling isn't a new species, it's evolving, and that's why it's getting better at mimicking, basically. So yeah, 9.5 out of 10 I'd give this. So 9.5. It's really getting interesting now, you know. There's a lot there to keep you engaged. So bring it on, bring on episode 6. So that's it for episode 5, Imposters, as it was called. So with that, I'll leave it there for this one. So cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.